Hi Year 6 and welcome to Lesson 1 of your Rainforest Poetry Week. We're going to be looking at a range of different writing that's already been written around the rainforest. We're going to listen to some poetry and we're going to watch lots of images to help inspire us to write our own. So let's get started. First of all, before we start, I would like you to think about poetic terms and devices that you've already used. Think about what you've already written in Year 5 and Year 4 and some of the poetic devices we talk about on a day-to-day basis in our everyday writing. We need to make sure our writing is going to be fun, and actually poetry is all about playing around with words. So we're going to watch a short clip to remind us what we might include in our own writing.
When I was growing up, I thought poetry was very serious. It took me a long time to realise that it can be fun and that anyone can do it. At its heart, poetry is about having fun with words and the sounds that they make. One of my favourite poetic devices is Onomatopoeia. It's a long word, but simply means words that are also sounds. Words like moo, quack, roar, drip, drop, splash. By stringing sound words together, it is possible to create a poem. The cow goes moo and the duck goes quack, roar goes the lion and drip goes the tap. Drop goes the penny as it splashes into the well. Plop goes the elephant dung, and bad is the smell. Onomatopoeia, sound words, are fun to play with because with sounds, you get rhythms. A splish, splash, splosh, and a drip, drop, plop. A rustle, bustle, tussle, and a slip, slap, slop. Listening to the sounds around us can inspire poems. Poems that are just fun to say. They don't have to have a deep meaning. In fact, poems don't have to have any meaning at all. They can be utter nonsense.
So Joseph Coelho there, who's a playwright and poet himself, mentioned onomatopoeia as just one poetic device that we might use when we're writing, and it's a fun one too. So I want you to pause the video now, give yourself a minute to jot down as many poetic features that you can. Off you go. How did you get on? Could you remember lots of language choices that we have in poetry and some of the things that we use in our narrative writing and our creative writing? Let's have a look and see whether you've got a list similar to mine. Okay, what did I write down? So I've got, let's go over this side first. I've got rhythm, rhyme, repetition, pattern, and the use of verses or stanzas, which is the sort of thing we break our poems up into, a bit like paragraphs in writing. And other things I wrote down were over here. A metaphor. Did you write down metaphors? And then similes. So metaphors is when you describe something as being something else. A simile is when you compare it, so like a or a something as a. Onomatopoeia, we've already talked about, words that sound like how they are. Personification, giving human characteristics to an inanimate object, something that we did right back at the beginning of term. At the beginning of the year, in fact, in Stormbreaker, do you remember the clutches of the crusher in the car scrapyard was given human and monster-like characteristics, which made it sound even more terrifying. Anaphora, which is the repetition of a phrase in a poem, which I'd help you identify when we look at some poems together. Assonance, which is a new one probably for Year 6, which is the same vowel sound within words, which we will again have a look at when we analyse some of the text, and alliteration, which you've been learning since you were way down in Key Stage 1, so words that sound with the same starting sound. We're going to watch a video now, which is a visual poem written by a rainforest protection group, and I wonder whether you can identify some of the things that we've just talked about in this poem, and maybe jot them down as you listen to it.
I breathe, you breathe, I rain, you drink, I birth every moment, hum of life, song of death. The insatiable vulture, deep roots, wise culture, convergence, omniscience, indifference. How many leaves have ever fallen? Hush. Listen. Air, water, food, medicine, home.
Now with the visual poem we had lots of our senses stimulated there. We were able to see the rainforest through images, we had music in the background as well. You're going to be writing poetry this week, which relies solely on the use of language and words. So we're going to have a look at some poems that have been written down and see if we can understand what the author intended and whether or not we can identify some of these features of poetic writing that we want to use in our own work. Now I've already underlined a couple of words here that I'd like you to have a look at, and I've highlighted here the word assonance, being the repetition of the same vowel sound. This is new learning in Year 6, and I'd like you to listen to the poem and see if you can work out what sound I've underlined in this poem. Okay, so we've got The Rainforest by Martha McDermott. The birds were singing and the sun was shining. The monkeys were howling loud. The river was flowing and the fish were swimming as the flamingos were standing proud. A very light drizzle was falling down as a jaguar crouched on the ground. A majestic leopard climbed a tree as if he had a crown, while a green hummingbird full of life lively buzzed around. The animals fluttered around so naive and clueless as they bounced around in their own little way. And up came a giant plough that started to suppress a lush garden so beautiful and fresh. Now the monkeys have no home, and it's all because of us. 2. Now I always try to do my best, and always hope you will, too. Now you might have spotted a range of poetic devices as I was reading that through. Hopefully you also identified what that sound was, that repetition of the same vowel sound, which is repeated throughout the poem. I've got my pen here to underline it. Let's see if we can find it together. So I've already underlined 4 of these words. Let's do that one in green as well. I don't know why I did it in purple. And we've got words throughout the poem which have this ow sound in them. I wonder if you can spot with me as we skim and scan through this poem again where they are. So we've got the birds were singing, the sun was shining, the monkeys were howling loud. Did you hear that one? Owl there. Fish were swimming, the flamingos were standing proud. Got it there. Very light drizzle falling down. And we've got the jaguar crouched on the ground. You can only just hear it there, but it's there in the ouch sound. We've got crown, and we've got around, and we've got the owl there, in around again, repeated. We've got bounced. Now this tool just helps us to have cohesion in the writing, so it sort of glues the writing together with the same sound throughout. I think that's all of them that we've got there. And then a complete change towards that latter end in that second stanza. Now did you spot any other features as we were listening to that poem? I wonder what else you could hear. Let's use a different colour. Did you hear any rhyming? Did you see any anaphora, which is the repetition of the same word or phrase? We've got this phrase, the something were singing. This is a repetition of a phrase. So we have the sun was shining. You've got the same vowel. You've got the determiner the, and then you've got were or was, and then you've got it repeated again. The and were. The river was flowing. So that's a repetition of a phrase. So this phrase and this phrase is the same, and this one is the same, and I think that repeats throughout. You've got the and were, and it comes up again and again and again. So that's use of anaphora. Did you spot any rhyming as we were reading it through? Let's see. We've got singing, shining, loud, flowing, swimming, proud. So I think proud and loud are rhyming words. So I'm going to underline those in purple as well. And then we've got down rhyming with crown. And then you've got ground here rhyming with around. So there is the use of a rhyming couplets. You've also got clueless, suppress. So the end of the word rhymes. I don't think it really rhymes with fresh, but you've got those word endings there that rhyme. And then further down here, they're not rhyming words, they're words that are exactly the same. So some rhyme, not necessarily following a particular pattern. Figurative language, have we got any metaphors or similes in here? We've got one simile here, as if he had a crown. So you've got use of a simile. I'm just going to use the same colour over there. Actually, I should have done that with the purple as well for rhyme, to show you that I'm gathering together my ideas, and then I'm putting them over here so that I can see which colour I've highlighted them in, and I've got my green for my assonance. Whoops, didn't mean to cross it out. Ooh, doesn't want to do that. There we go. Okay. We're going to need a different colour now to think about some other things. Have we got any onomatopoeia? I can see the word buzzed there, and fluttered. I'm going to put that one in orange, so that one stands out. You might spot drizzle. I even wonder whether drizzle is a bit of onomatopoeia as well, really. Sort of sounds like that when it rains, doesn't it? What other features can you spot? Let's get a different colour. We've got some really nice adjectives. I have to go for black now. Majestic leopard is a really lovely word which implies they're some sort of royalty perhaps as they come through the forest. You've got green, not a particularly powerful word there. And you've got words like beautiful and lush. They're better adjectives. And giant is a better word than saying big. Now I'm running out of colours. I'm going to have to go with yellow. Not a very easy colour to see. I'm going to see if we can find some powerful verbs and adverb choices. So we have the birds were singing, shining, the howling's a good one. River was flowing. These are our verb choices. Nice choices. Swimming, so standing. Falling down, the jaguar crouched on the ground. A majestic leopard climbed a tree. Full of life, lively, got an adjective there. Buzzed around and the animals fluttered around. Naive and clueless, actually that was an adjective to describe something as naive and clueless. Means to have no idea about what's about to happen, and as we know, up came a giant plough, so their rainforest was destroyed as they were quite happy in their home. So quite sad, quite a poignant poem here. Personification, I can't see. The plough could have been given human characteristics, but it hasn't been. Alliteration, we've got quite a lot of words beginning with the letter S. I've got no colours left to write with down the bottom here, so I'm going to have to use a different line. I'm going to go with blue and a dotted line this time. So we've got the birds were singing, we've got the sun was shining. Oh, I think I've picked up an arrow instead. Never mind. You get the idea. This is our alliteration. Because I've run out of colours, I'm going with dots. And then we've got the river was flowing and the fish was swimming, the flamingo standing proud. We've got climbed a tree as if he had a crown. This word's getting a bit crowded over here. And not so many, just a few, perhaps chosen deliberately, but not overused. So there's your alliteration. We haven't got personification. We've done these ones. And yes, we've got two structures here. So we're going to go with a dotted orange line this time for poem structure set out in verses. So this is our first one here. And then a very short and very different lengthed second verse or stanza, so section to the writing. I think that's everything. So what we've done is we've gone through each of these areas and poetic features that we've identified over here, and then identified them in the different colours on this text here. And this is what I'd like you to do independently. So you are going to annotate and highlight the poems to show the poetic devices used. I want you to see what you identify about patterns or structures used by the poets, and also try and magpie some ideas as you're reading these through. So you've got one poem here called Monkeying Around in the Amazon, and it's about these cute little chaps down here, the capuchin monkeys. I've got a video to show you so that you've got some idea of what this poem, how this poet was stimulated to write this poem by watching this short video clip. I thought I'd show this to you first before we read it through. Now I had to show you that little video clip before you read this next poem, so you had a real clear understanding where this poet got their inspiration from before we read it. White hawks circle the rainforest canopy to follow a troop of capuchin monkeys. The monkey frenzy in the jungle trees will wake up other arboreal company. Snakes wound tight in mossy tree frames will soon be some lucky hawk's fair game. Jaguars faithfully guard the monkey antics. Later they will enjoy their monkey sandwich. Swinging to the left, swinging to the right, capuchin monkeys will stay busy until night. With the faces of wise old men in little monk hoods, these rainforest monkeys like to play in the woods. Swaying from branches in search of their diet, these active little fellows will never be quiet. Their tails have the power to swing for miles. They are smart mammals that make us smile. They can jump as high as 9 feet in the air. They like midday naps and never climb stairs. In a complex environment they groom and play, capuchin monkeys on a beautiful rainforest day. Now I'm hoping that the video helped you really understand how the author was inspired to talk about the monkeys in this way, but also identifying some of the predators that might be watching these monkeys carefully, hoping they might make a mistake and they get an easy dinner. Your task then, this is your first poem, I'd like you to analyse the examples of poetic devices and with different colours do exactly what we just did on the previous example that we did together. The second poem I'd like you to analyse is called Rainforest, Rainbows in Flight. I'll read it to you now, and I would like you to see if you can work out what creature this is probably about, and we'll talk about it in the next session. In the heart of South America, the river churns colours for flight. Amazon rainforest rainbows ascend above red clay cliffs like kites. Hundreds to thousands of rainbows, a bird continent thriving in trees. Loud calls from these brightly coloured parrots, red, blue, green and yellow majesty. They commune in rainbow families, in flocks or with a lifelong mate. They sit on their sunlit canopy, like guardians of heaven's gate. Their strong curved beaks cry out to all, to children of every nation. Our rainbows are a special sign to take good care of creation. So your task, again, second activity, is to go through this poem and identify those poetic features that you can spot in there. So 2 quite different poems, and then tomorrow we'll have a little think about what this poem was all about. I'm sure you'll guess it. Good luck, and I look forward to seeing your analysis.